I'm going to call to order the Board of Commissioners' regular meeting agenda, April 15th, 2025. The time is now 5:05 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Floyd,
Here.
Commissioner Burdette,
Here.
Chairman Ron,
Here.
Commissioner Deloach,
Here.
Commissioner Helmley,
Here.
and Commissioner Kiefer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Good. Madam Clerk, I understand we have someone for our invocation tonight.
Yes, sir, we do. Okay, Mr. Chairman, board members, and visitors and staff, tonight we have with us Mr. Hal Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins is happily married to Brenda Jenkins, blessed father of 2 children and grandfather of 3 children. He's the associate pastor at Springfield Oaks Church, and most importantly, forgiven and redeemed child of God, devoted to loving and serving Jesus. And I have to add a quote from Mr. Jenkins: just an old retired ball coach who loves Jesus. Help me welcome Mr. Jenkins.
Anybody that goes into ministry at 58 don't have good sense, Beth. You knew that cat was out of the bag a long time ago.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you, guys. I'll get to thanking y'all in a minute, but I want to do a little bit of a devotional for you. I told Phil I'd keep it short. When the Allied troops invaded Normandy, there was one infantry unit that got caught up in fighting along the hedgerows, which was like Vince Dooley football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And many men died, and there was this one young man that got killed, and his friends took it. There was a church along the way, along the hedgerow. And they took this young man to this church because they wanted to bury him in the graveyard. The young man was brought to the priest, and the priest looked down and he had a Star of David around his neck. And the priest told him, he says, I can't bury him inside the fence. He says, you're welcome to bury your friend outside. And that's what they did. The next night, the weather was bad, and the troops came back to that church, and the priest was all soaking wet, dirty. And his friends asked him, says, where's our friend? We don't see his grave. And the priest said, I moved the fence. I moved the fence. Because with God, everybody is included. With God, everybody is included. Commissioners, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Today is an anniversary for our prison ministry that's been in there 17 months. Tonight we are having an outdoor worship service at the prison. We're going to have people outside the fence and inside the fence. And one thing I know in 17 months of doing this ministry, I know exactly what Jesus is talking about right now. Because see, the prison is one of God's favorite places. And he tells us that. In Matthew 25:34, he says, Then the king will say to those on his right, Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me. I want to thank you for allowing us to come in. We've had the opportunity to minister to a lot of young men. We've seen a lot of them come and go. Y'all know that's a short-term facility out there. And we want to give those guys the best shot when they get out. And the warden and I are in total agreement on this. The only way to do prison reform is to change the heart. Because if you change the heart, the body will follow. This evening, I would like to pray a blessing over y'all. Y'all have an impossible job. Everybody that comes in here wants their way. And that's an impossible task. Beth, you and I know we can't make everybody happy, can we? Y'all do a wonderful job. And I tell Phil this all the time. I said, y'all do a wonderful job of finding the common good. And that's what you're here for. God put you in this position. I'd like to pray a blessing over you, and I gotta get to the prison. Pray with me. Father, I ask for your blessing upon these county commissioners and the staff that works with them. Father, I pray that you will give them discernment to find the justice for the common good in this county, which is growing exceedingly quick. Father, we don't ask you to slow it down. Just give these people discernment to do their job. And Father, if we ask, we will receive. Father, we pray this in the precious name of Jesus, who moved the fence for everybody in this room. I pray that in his holy name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
And we gladly get to do the pledge. You know, there's two things that happen in this country. We don't have a lot anymore. Phil told me I had to stay for the pledge.
I'll be leading us to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, sir. Fired up now.
That was a good one.
Moving on to our agenda approval, consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. I'll entertain a motion if there's no changes.
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple of changes, or a change, my apologies. On the last page, or next to the last page of your agenda, item number 7 under Planning Board. It's consideration to approve an application by William J. Burgess for a conditional use at 1302 Springfield Egypt Road. The applicant has requested to postpone this item until May the 20th. So that will be both items number 7 and number 8 on the Planning Board agenda.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted change.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 6, minutes, consideration to approve the April 1st, 2025 regular meeting minutes. There are no changes. I will ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 7, public comments. Comments shall pertain to the agenda items only. Should you wish to make remarks, clearly state your full name into the microphone before commencing to speak. Item number 8, correspondence. The agenda packet for this meeting is posted on the county's website. Any additional documentation presented at the meeting shall be submitted to the clerk for receipt, recording, and distribution to the board. Moving on to item number 9 is our consent agenda. This section shall include all routine items for which there will be no discussion. Should a need arise for debate, the item could be moved to the appropriate area of the agenda. Item number 1, consent. Consideration to approve to renew the lease agreement for radio communications tower with State Properties Commission, Georgia Forestry Commission. Item number 2, consideration to approve the OpenGov procurement software renewal for year 2 of the current agreement. Item number 3, consideration to approve to renew the agreements with FP Mailing Services for postage meters at multiple locations. Item number 4, consideration to approve the renewal of the professional services agreement with Schneider Geospatial LLC for a QPublic.net add-on for the tax assessor's office. Item number 5, consideration to approve to ratify and affirm the final change order number 8 for the Effingham County CEM Gym expansion, construction for Lavender and Associates Incorporated.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. All right. Moving on to item number 10, unfinished business. This will be a second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading to amend section 4.1A, table of permitted uses of the Effingham County Code of Ordinances to allow for mobile home parks as a permitted use in B3. First reading approved, the April 1st, 2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, consideration to approve to amend the Effingham County Purchasing Policy and Standards document.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we've been working on this for probably about 6 months with the assistance of the firm that's helping us revamp all of our financial policies. We've asked them to kind of take a step back from that full financial policy revamp to kind of front load the purchasing policy because it hasn't been updated in quite a long time. And there's quite a few things that we address in this. Some of them are, a big part of them are the thresholds that we permit and what sort of oversight those thresholds are we have for purchasing. When is three, and I'll give you an example, when is 3 verbal bids acceptable? When do you need 3 written bids? When do the thresholds for the items for to go out for a firm request for a proposal bid process? It also goes into some of the more contemporary and flexible procurement methods that are used in construction and design that we did not acknowledge in our previous policy. And some of them are really related to how you manage a project and how you make a more competitive get a more competitive price and a higher quality product. And the key thing on that, and they're very similar, the 2 ones that we're adding in there, or 2 of the main ones that we're adding in there are because traditionally what we've used is design, bid, build. Hire a engineer without communication with a contractor does a design. Then we take that design, put it out to bid, and then we hire a construction contractor. Certainly for larger projects, but we even see a need to do this in some smaller projects, simply because we're having trouble getting the necessary number of bidders that we need to come in, is a process called either progressive design build or contract manager at risk. They're similar in that you hire the engineering or design, whether it's engineer or architecture firm, to take you to about 30% through the process. And then at that point, you go through a competitive scoring process to choose a contractor. And then that contractor actually comes in and then works with the engineer on the design and of the total project, where the contractor can provide a substantial amount of feedback as to how to keep costs down, because, and I'm not saying architects or engineers do this, but the architects and engineers, their contracts are based on total project cost. So they have a disincentive to design in a way to keep project costs down, where the contractor has an incentive to keep the costs down, because if the price that he comes up at the end of the process, the board field or administration feels is not competitive enough, we can then put it out for bid. we can then back out. So it gives us a lot more options. It actually helps us move projects forward quicker because we're not waiting till after the full design is done to start the bid process. We're doing it early on. And then it also the policy also addresses how we deal with change orders and the frustrating thing about having to bring a negative change order to the board, or a change order for a nominal amount of money like, $500 or something to that effect. And so the way that we did it was we followed the same thresholds as our purchasing policy, but we have a caveat there. That if a cumulative amount of change order results in 10% of the total project cost, then it has to go to the board for approval from that point on. Because what's been happening is that we may get a minor item that comes in, and since it's technically a contract change, or it changes the total cost of the price, it slows up the project because, or to make it more uncomfortable for me, I have to approve it to keep the project moving and then bring it to you all for ratification. It's not a position that I like to be in, where we're approving something before the board, even though the board is required to do it. I'm allowed to do it in those emergency and exigent circumstances, but I think that's been used way too often. And I'd like to just simply make it a policy, but if it goes near a threshold that is too high, then at that point, every change order from that point on has to be brought to the board for approval. But overall, it makes the process for us to allow us to, and which is the ultimate goal, is to get better projects at better price at quicker turnaround times. And I think this overall revamp of it will accomplish that. As a matter of fact, we've got several projects that we're actually waiting on, particularly the park projects, where we want to bring into these different procurement methods like contract manager at risk, because we know the end result is us getting a better price and a quicker project time. So that's where we are. We did bring this, to have review by the attorney. We've gone through about 3 or 4 rounds on this, and I think we've involved nearly every department in this process to find out what are their pain points on the procurement process and how can we keep the oversight and the approval that's needed, but allow us the flexibility to keep things moving.
Very good. Tim, question for you on, does this include any kind of emergency things? So I'm thinking of like IT, for example, he loses some switches and
Yes.
he needs to.
Yeah, so there is emergency levels, but unless they go to an excessive level, several hundred thousand, over 100,000.
Okay.
Then I generally don't have emergency purchases that go anywhere near that.
Right.
But if it's a state of emergency, we're under a state of emergency, then that opens up additional procurement capabilities for us to do that. But I think on those situations where we're not, where we just couldn't predict it, like you mentioned.
Yeah, if the server goes down.
A server goes down and we've got a, and it's.
Business function that needs to be done immediately.
That we've got to go through it, and we may not be able to get the competitive bids we need. And another example is if an HVAC unit goes down. Either we shut down the entire, an entire building, or, and if we're not able to get, let's say, the 3 necessary quotes, we can only get 2. We've got to kind of move things forward if we feel that those quotes are competitive.
And I know we discussed at one point about getting the possibility of getting some pre-qualified contractors in. It seems like we have a hard time getting bids returned. getting some, set.
Well, and it's difficult to do that, and it's because the state law, which they're adjusting, the governor has not signed it yet, right? You cannot have a construction contract over $100,000 at its current status without
competitive
having to go out for a competitive bid. That's verboten. Now it's gonna, if the governor signs the bill, it will bring it up to 250, but then we will have to bring the procurement policy back to you all to make that change. Right now, we just do it up to what the state law allows.
Gotcha. Perfect.
But one conversation we did have earlier today with the attorney and some of the consultants was, some of the things that we may require that may prevent us from getting competitive bids. We're going to try and fine tune those. But also maybe sitting down with some of our local contractors and teaching them, or letting them know what they have to do to get bonded, because that, a lot of times what they're doing is, because they've not gone through that process, is they're just becoming a sub for the entire project under somebody else.
True.
And that person is just taking an extra layer of payment where they're really not providing any services other than the bonding service.
So we'll provide an advocate for them to walk them through the process or something.
Yeah, and we're thinking of trying to do some lunch and learns and some training to give them, what's necessary to, because I think there's a lot of fear factor as to what the county requires in order for them to be a bidder for us. And it's not as complicated as I think. I mean, some of the things we can't get away with, like the insurance requirement and the bond requirement, but if we give them some guidance on how they can do that, the Beth message for doing that, I think we can probably get a lot more results because...
That's where I was kind of going, was soliciting our local contractor. We have so many local contractors and basically getting them when I said pre-qualifying, more or less, having them understand the process so that they're ready to go, oversimplify it for them.
Agreed.
Perfect.
This sort of, are you done? I don't want to
Yes,
jump
ma'am.
in if you
Yes,
have some
ma'am.
more
I'm
questions. But it does tie into something you mentioned. Do our local businesses, contractors, do they get a little extra point or two on the process? And
Yeah.
it might be in that, I read, well, I
And,
glanced
and,
through
and
that
we,
thing.
we don't have that yet, but it's in this policy.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that you were gonna
yeah.
put something like that in there, cause
Favorite
I like to use our guys if we
Yeah,
can. I
yeah.
don't wanna show any,
And-
We've looked at that in the
But,
past.
yeah.
And so the way we put it in there is that if they put a bid in, and let's say they're not the winning bid, but they're within 5%, we then we can tell them if they're qualified local business, and we have how you define that, that we can go to them and then they could match the low bid if they were within that threshold. So it gives them a kind of a capability. If they just barely miss it, they have that a little bit of advantage over somebody else.
I'm just hearing a lot of that because of the national developers that's coming in, they said
Yeah.
we're just losing everything to them because they're bigger and, they said it's just
And-
killing us in terms of jobs.
And I'll tell you, the thing that's really, for us, particularly on some of these small projects, we've got 3 cases where we're looking at throwing out the bids because we've gotten single bids on them and the prices were outrageous. And they're not terribly complicated projects where somebody small could have come in, but rather somebody large submitted with an enormous amount of overhead and we just simply weren't going to pay the premium for not the
That's
work.
what I'm trying to get to, and hopefully
Yeah,
it's because some of these small projects that we do, I know could be done locally
right.
and get a better response if we had people already, vetted, per
That's
se.
right.
So,
And you'd be amazed at how many things the competitive bid process actually drives cost up. You think it's counterintuitive, but what we've been seeing, it's just been, it's been horrible.
The other thing, and it's just these little change orders, and I agree completely that you should have discretion over that. It's no need to, but I just hate to see like we did something with the administrative building, where they didn't have the wall hangers for the sinks or something. I think we had to approve that. And I noticed on this one that we just approved the consent agenda, that in the gym, they didn't have cabinet doors for the cabinets. And those are the kind of things that sort of irritate me. It's not that much money,
Sure.
but those should have been, I mean, unless, why wouldn't you have a cabinet door for a cabinet?
Well,
You
it's,
know, and I guess that's.
well, in that case, I mean, it was somebody in the county who told them they didn't want them there. And that person is not in that position anymore, so we look at them and
Okay.
we pointed at them and
But
we're
We
like,
have Trey
I
now.
just- I
Trey's
just
gonna
hate-
fix all that,
I
right?
hate
who in
to
their
see
right
stuff-
mind would,
Okay.
would do this, and
Yeah,
so
I
we've
just
gotta
think it
eat
just
it because it's our own
irritates me.
mistake.
Yeah.
But we, I mean, it does, to your point is, we don't wanna, if there's things that should have been caught by the architect, we've gotta hold them accountable for that. But we do understand that there's unforeseen circumstances, that, you know, that, hey, nobody really thought about that, and a reasonable person would,
Well, that's different, you know,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
and so
got
those
that.
are the kind of things we're gonna try and do, but everything else, you know, and it, you know, in some cases, we can just bring it to the board anyway, because it kind of, you know, it frustrates me that we're having to do this. But it's but it does, for these nickel and dime little things, you know, where I gotta say, well, you know, I gotta hold up the entire project because I gotta get something approved. Yeah, you know, those ones you gotta use a little discretion on, but the big stuff, yeah, at that point, we've got to, it's gotta go before the board.
So we are putting some, measures in place for, you know, what I call reasonable person
Yes,
should go, you know,
Yeah.
cabinet doors should go in cabinets, and drawers should go in drawers, and doors should be on egresses and
Cabinets.
ingresses, those types of things, windows. Okay. Lastly, do we have, I know we talked about preference points for local, are we doing minority business, women-owned business, anything like that?
we
Veteran-owned
don't
business?
have that in there, but it's certainly something if you want us to look at, we can do as well.
Okay. Very good. All right. No further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we, accept this as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by John E. Tucker as agent for Laverne Moore to rezone plus or minus 10 acres located at 174 Holly Drive from AR1 to AR2 to allow for permitted uses in AR2. Map number 302, parcel number 53 in the 1st District.
I'll make a motion, we approve the second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to new business. It's a proclamation, consideration to approve a proclamation declaring the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members, you have the staff report there that outlines the details of this request. We do have some members present tonight to accept this proclamation, and if you will allow me, I will read it out for your hearing. Whereas children are critical to Effingham's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, while children are our most valued resources, they are also our most vulnerable. Children have a right to be safe and an opportunity to thrive, learn, and grow in an environment that fosters healthy development. And whereas child abuse and neglect can be prevented by supporting and strengthening Effingham's families, thus presenting the far-reaching effects of maltreatment and providing the opportunity for children to develop healthy, trusting family bonds, and consequently, building the foundations of communities. And whereas effectively intervening in the lives of children threatened by abuse is shared responsibility, and Effingham's citizens must come together so that the voices of our children are heard by all. We all must ensure that our communities are extending helping hands to children and families in need. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, the Effingham County Exchange Club, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas by providing a safe and nurturing environment for our children, free of violence, abuse, and neglect, we can ensure that Effingham County's children will grow to their full potential as the next generation of leaders, helping to secure the future of this county, state, and nation. And now, therefore, we, the Effingham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Effingham County, Georgia, and urge families and communities to become involved in protecting Effingham's children. We have members from the Exchange Club here tonight. If you would come forward, please. And board members, if you will come down.
Mr. Chairman, we have also Chris Brownlee. She's a supervisor with DFAC, so I've asked her to please come join us as well. Thank you.
What? Yeah, some sort of migraine, toothache. It was really bad for the last couple of days, so we'll see if it's getting any better. What? Yeah.
I'll ask for a motion to approve the proclamation.
Make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, another proclamation. Consideration to approve a proclamation declaring April as Donate Life Month. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. I will go ahead and read this one as well. Whereas one of the most meaningful gifts that a human being can bestow upon another is the gift of life, and whereas more than 100,000 men, women, and children await life-saving or life-enhancing organ transplants, of which nearly 3,000 reside in Georgia. And whereas 48,149, a record number of transplants, occurred in the calendar year 2024, thanks to the generosity of 24,020 deceased and living donors, of which 1,460 transplant patients and 650 deceased and living donors, also a recorded number, were from Georgia. And whereas more than 2.5 million people throughout the country and in the Georgia benefit annually from tissue transplant thanks to the thousands of tissue donors. And whereas the need for organ, eye, and tissue donation remains critical as a new patient is added to the national waiting list for an organ transplant every 8 minutes, and millions more could experience improved quality of life through tissue transplantation. And whereas the critical donor shortage remains a public health crisis, as an average of 16 people die daily due to the lack of available organs. And whereas organ, eye, and tissue donation can provide families the comfort of knowing the gift of donated organs and tissues endows another person with renewed hope for a healthy life. And whereas donating life through organ, eye, and tissue donation is the ultimate act of generosity and kindness, we county citizens can perform. And whereas nearly 3.8 million Georgians have already registered for their decision to give the gift of life, when getting or renewing their driver's license or state identification card at a driver's license office, or when getting a hunting or fishing license through the Department of Natural Resources. And whereas LifeLink of Georgia, the nonprofit organization dedicated to the recovery of organs and tissue for transplantation therapy in Georgia, with a vision to maximize the gift of life while giving hope to donor families and transplant patients, and mission to honor donors and save lives through organ and tissue donations. And whereas Effingham County supports the life-saving mission of LifeLink of Georgia, and now therefore Effingham County do hereby proclaim April 2025 as National Donate Life Month. If we could go ahead and get a motion on this, Mr. Chairman.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 3, consideration.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, your picture, and I
Oh, I'm
think
sorry, I
we
didn't
have
realize we
someone,
had someone here.
I think we have someone, we're supposed to have someone present for this one as well. Okay, guess they didn't make it. All right.
Moving on.
Yes, sir.
Moving on. Item number 3, consideration to approve a task order between Effingham County and Goodwin Mills and Kaywood Incorporated for professional services related to the construction of the wastewater treatment plant.
It's, Mr. Chairman, that's incorrect. That's actually the water treatment plant.
Gotcha.
This actually, if you, just the background, it was about a year ago, we hired GMC to do the feasibility study for a new water intake and treatment plant. And there, as a result of the feasibility study, we were able to present it to the governor's office, and where we received funding for its design and construction. It's approximately a $320 million project, what this simply does is move it to the full design stage so they can use the existing information that they've been gathering during the feasibility study to move this to full design and construction. Just so you know, we are looking, although we have not determined, this will be at a future meeting. But this is one of those projects where we will probably be using an alternative procurement method. So this will probably bring us, we will probably be bringing a contractor in, or starting that process when they get to about the 30% plan mark on this. This is both, all three. This is the water intake, or it's actually 5. Water intake, the raw water line, the water treatment plant, the finished water line, the water tank, and the water line that goes essentially to the Bryan County border, where Bryan County will take it over from there. So we have both Jim Vaughn and Ed Saxon here, who've been helping us, kind of leading the way on this project. If you all have any questions on it, but this is just the next step to a very exciting process.
Very good. I think they're pretty thorough when we met with them on our retreat, so.
Yes, and also we've actually gone through multiple legal reviews of the contract, gotten feedback from, we've actually asked from assistance from, I'm trying to remember the law firm, but it's a very long contract, and so we've made several rounds of adjustments on it where they've been accommodating to what we want. So with that, we're recommending alternative 1.
Very good. Still on track for Reginald's schedule?
Yes, we are. So the only thing that could hold that up is permitting, but I will tell you, I've never seen a government agency be so aggressive on regular meetings to make sure this project is moving forward. That's EPD, so.
Great. Any questions?
Is the same group going to be working with Bryan County, so everything comes together at that?
Yes, and so so we're already coordinating. That's one of the steps that we've got to get, is that agreement with Bryan County. But that will also include the coordinating with whoever their engineering firm, which I believe is Thomas and Hutton, who will do their section of the work.
Okay.
And it also coordinates with the city of Savannah because they've got to upgrade their systems for phase one, which delivers more water to us through our existing system and gets it to Hyundai while they're waiting for the water plant and intake to be built.
Gotcha. Was that, and that's a good question, Forrest, considering we have three different entities trying to meet in the middle at the same time, how is that working as far as?
Well, we are.
Nobody's holding anybody up type thing.
Right, yeah, and so we've not, we know that Savannah is working on an MOU to kind of give a framework for all three entities, and actually EPD requires that for us to move forward with our permit. And so, and then, and then that will move towards a full agreement. That'll keep the ball moving forward while we negotiate a full agreement. But in the meantime, Bryan County and Savannah knows that that they are part of phase one on this, so their ability meet the timeline is critical. So they have about as much of incentive because everybody is really getting some sort of contribution for playing their role here. So that both Savannah and Bryan County know they have an obligation to meet as well.
And how soon are we gonna do these discussions that way, with Bryan and?
My thought is that we were hoping to get kind of maybe a first draft, but we may start that ourselves and just kind of throw it out to both Bryan and Savannah, or Savannah may start it, just to basically so everybody can comment it and start the process. And we're hoping to maybe get that started within the next week.
If we get everybody on the same page, I think early in the game, that's gonna help keep the project moving forward.
I agree.
Yeah, great. Perfect. Any other questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, presentation of the fiscal year 2024 audited financial report.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes, Finance Director. I did give a copy of these slides out to you, so if you wanted to look at it as we go through there. But the annual audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024 is complete, and the board received an electronic copy and a hard copy at the previous commissioners meeting. Tonight I'm going to go over the highlights from these statements. I do want to note that the partner level CPA who has managed our audit for probably a little over a decade, Kay Proctor, she did leave the firm around the end of December. And so unlike in recent years, I'll be the only one speaking tonight, but Richard Deal, the partner CPA who is taking over this audit, will be available to come speak to the board if requested. So these are the items that I'm going to briefly cover, income statement items, specific highlights and accomplishments, and a summary of the results. The numbers in the audit are not any materially different from the numbers that we've kind of gone over in previous retreats before the audit was completed, so I'm going to try to be kind of brief tonight. There weren't any surprises in the audit from the numbers that we've already looked over before. So on this slide, these are the normal operating revenues for our major funds, and they don't include any non-operating or extraordinary items like transfers between funds. These numbers come straight from the Statement of Revenues and Expenditures, which in the audit is on page 18 for the governmental funds and 26 for the enterprise funds. And these two statements on page 18 and 26 are probably what most people consider the most important statements. That's what most people are interested in seeing in the audit. We see up here that overall the revenues in both the governmental and enterprise funds are up for the year with a few exceptions. There's a few items I would want to go over. In the general fund, revenue growth was driven primarily by sales tax receipts, the title ad valorem tax on vehicles, and the investment earnings, which have been doing very well with the current interest rate environment that we're in. These interest rates boosted the investment earnings throughout all of our funds in fiscal year '24. This picture is kind of very similar to what we saw in fiscal year 2023, where we were still in a high interest rate, kind of inflationary environment, and it pushed these same categories of revenues higher, above expectations. Plus, on the investment earnings, we don't balance our budget expecting a lot of those, because we never really know when that interest rate may be changed dramatically. So anytime the interest rate does remain high throughout the whole year like it did, it's pretty much causes that to come in above expectations, and it goes right into fund balance. In the special tax district, the effect of the property digest growth on the roads and recreation, 2 mills is the largest driver of those revenue increases. But recreation revenues, which are also housed in the special tax district, were up a good bit in fiscal year '24 as well, just because of all of the increased activities and participation out there. For the American Rescue Plan Act Fund, the ARPA fund, the county received its full $12 million disbursement from the Treasury all at once a few years ago. And, but we only recognize revenues as project expenditures are incurred. As we spend the money, then we recognize that grant revenue. And last year we had the Hodgeville Sanitary Force Main was being in full swing, and the Loop B, and the ARPA money went towards that. So that's why you see a big, change there between fiscal year '23 and fiscal year '24. In SPLOST 2017, those revenues, didn't change very much. There are no actual tax proceeds going into SPLOST 2017 since that SPLOST is over. So that is purely investment earnings that you're seeing there. And we are spending those balances down. So even though rates were a little high, we do see the revenue went down a little bit. In the T-SPLOST funds, we see that sales tax did increase in fiscal year '24 as we'd expect, just like we saw with the regular sales tax in the general fund. T-SPLOST 2023 up there is the new fund that started in fiscal year 2024. We just brought that fund online when we issued the bond in April of 2024, so there wasn't any spending out of there yet. And no tax proceeds in fiscal year '24 for that T-SPLOST. Those started in fiscal year '25. The other governmental funds category, that includes Fire Fund, Development Services, E911 Fund, and others. And it saw revenue increases driven by, overall that category was driven by increases in the insurance premium tax that we get from the state each year, and the change to the fire fees. Page 57 of the audited statements will give the detail to the different departments that go into that other governmental funds category. Most of the funds in this category had smaller increases than what you see there. The water and sewers overall revenues are significantly up, but the operating revenues that you see here exclude cost recovery fees, and so they're down. This decrease is mostly the result of one of the cost recovery fees being classified as an operating revenue last year when it should not have been, and so that was corrected in the fiscal year 2024 statements. And so the statements we have now give a more accurate picture of the operating picture of the water and sewer system. And just to kind of reiterate, the operating picture is operating revenues and operating expenses, and it ignores cost recovery fees. For the self-insurance fund in fiscal year 2024, we see revenues are up, and revenue in this fund consists mostly of the premiums that are charged through the payroll system and any stop-loss reimbursements. And both categories were up for the year. This is just a graphical representation of the numbers that we just saw. And as we see, 2024 is up a little bit from 2023 on the revenue side. Going into the operating expenses, like in the previous schedule, these schedules don't include unusual items like transfers between funds. These numbers, again, are found on page 18 and 26 of the annual report. And for our main funds here, we see it's a bit more of a mixed picture compared to the revenues. Some are over, some are under. From the general fund, besides inflation driving this change, we also have changes to personnel in fiscal year '24. Probably the single biggest change to personnel in that year was the addition of 6 school resource officers, which is a pretty significant change and has a pretty big impact on the budget when you get the personnel, the equipment, the vehicles for those. In the special tax district's expenses, they were driven largely by just the increased spending on road maintenance, recreation, and public parks, which has been a very big focus in recent years. The 2017 SPLOST ended a number of years ago, and we are spending down its balance as capital projects are completed. Likewise, with the T-Splosh 2021 there, its expenses are way down. That T-Splosh is now over in this fiscal year, and we're just spending down those balances on road projects. The other governmental funds category includes, those increases are driven mainly just by the COLA and merit for the fiscal year, and the addition of 6 new firefighters caused that to increase. Water and sanitation are up roughly in line with inflation and the county growth for the fiscal year, while the other non-major funds category, while it's pretty small, it was up because of the upgrades at the solid waste collection site that happened last year. And in the self-insurance fund, we see those fluctuations there are just driven based on the cases and the insurance claims that we have each year. And that's just a graphical representation of what the expenses are doing from the numbers that we saw on the previous slide. So on this slide, we have fund balance, and fund balance is basically your revenues minus your expenses, and whatever's left, you roll into your fund balance year over year. So it's your piggy bank. And here, this includes everything. So not just the operating items, but any unusual items as well that aren't classified as regular operating. They'll fall into the fund balance. Like before, this information is on page 18 to 26 of the audited statements. And a detailed breakdown of these fund balances and any restrictions they have can also be found on those pages in the audit. The general fund we're going to cover in the next slide by itself, so just moving into the next funds underneath that. We generally see increases in fund balance with some expected decreases, such as the 2017 SPLOST. Sanitation, we see almost broke even. Our goal is to have that roughly break even each year, but the fee has since been adjusted for that, so in fiscal year 25 it should be looking pretty good. Plus there were some changes with how the secondary trash carts are handled in sanitation that'll also kind of help that. And the decrease in other non-major funds fund balance, again, that was related to the outlays that were spent on the solid waste collection site that year. We do see that the T-Splosh 2023 line, it was new for this year, and that's a really big number in fund balance change. So the fund balance was 0 in fiscal year 23 and it's 48 million in fiscal year 24. That is the $60 million bond that was issued. That's the 48 is the county's portion of that. So looking, kind of honing in on the general fund balance specifically, it increased by about 5.6 million in fiscal year 24. And this was driven mostly by the revenues we talked about earlier exceeding the expectations, but it was also personnel expenses came in a bit under. Investment earnings in the general fund were almost $1.4 million in fiscal year 2024. And since they can be so sensitive to interest rate changes like we discussed earlier, we don't balance our budget expecting to get that much from them. So when it does come in high, that basically goes right into fund balance and is a major contributor to our fund balance growing that much last fiscal year. And like we said, the other big performers that drove that change was the sales tax and the title ad valorem tax on vehicles. For fiscal year 25, we've used more aggressive revenue estimates on these items so that, to be a bit more realistic with what we've been seeing in recent years. As we said, the personnel costs were also a little bit lower in fiscal year 24 than our original budget, and that contributed to fund balance growing. We did in our fiscal year 25 budget use kind of sharper numbers on our personnel so that our actuals come in more close to what we predicted. So just a few highlights for the fiscal year. I know it's a little bit old at this point, but the new T-Splosh was initiated and bonded. The vehicle fleet overhaul was, I think, almost completely completed, or maybe completely completed in that year. And we spent about $33 million in capital projects across all funds in the last fiscal year. And for kind of comparison, in 2019, we spent $9 million in capital projects. So this is more than a threefold increase since that time frame. In fiscal year 24, we implemented the new payroll system, and development services also implemented a major software overhaul with OpenGov, and the administration building expansion started in that fiscal year. The audit results, the audit firm now is Lanier, Deal & Deal is their name now. It was Lanier, Deal, Proctor & Bloser last fiscal year, but they issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. There were 3 findings in there, and these are the same findings related to some constitutional officers' funds that we've had in the previous years. The specific nature of those is on page 82 of the audit, if y'all want to review that. One of these items has already been put to bed So we do not expect it to be an issue in the 2025 audit. And the other two, we're working on with those constitutional officers, so we think, pretty confident we can get those cleared up fiscal year '25. But that is the entirety of the presentation. And like I said, the partner, Richard Deal, can come by and give a presentation if needed, or is available to answer any more questions or any more detailed questions y'all may have of them. But in the meantime, y'all have any questions for me on?
Good summary.
Okay.
I have just, and you sort of addressed this to a degree, but it's not unusual to have, I mean, it's identical from the 23 to the 24 on the audit, the weaknesses. I mean, it's almost like they copied.
It's been
From
the
one to
same
the other.
for 3 to 4 years. It's the bank reconciliations weren't getting done timely, and then there was excess funds that were sitting there that needed to be dealt with, and they were there pretty much year after year and were never taken out. But that excess funds issue, I believe, is already cleared up.
And I will tell you that and if it was this time last year, I wouldn't be able to say it. And it's probably going on 7 years now with very similar findings. I would be surprised if any of these findings show up on the audit next year based on the willingness of the two offices involved to aggressively get them fixed. And I think it's you just kind of got a couple of new folks in there that are making these a priority. And they're not terribly complicated, I will tell you that too, to resolve these issues.
I just want to,
They weren't
Go ahead.
findings that the Board of Commissioners could fix.
That's right.
I just want to point out a couple things. Number one, thank you to the citizens that have supported SPLOST and T-SPLOST. As Mark was saying earlier, there's some very large numbers in those categories that we would not have been able to do what we've been able to do without your support of SPLOST and T-SPLOST. The other thing I want to point out is we do recognize that is a very healthy fund balance number. And over the years, what we've done is we've tried to be conservative. We've tried to build that up because we've got a lot of capital projects that's going on and will be going on, and we're going to need these funds to complete some of these projects, especially as all of you can see in your everyday life with the escalation of prices on everything. Government is not immune to that either. We deal with it every day in our bids, so this $34 million, that number will start going down and being used on these capital projects.
I said this last meeting, I'm not happy with this firm. You said you were gonna look into it. I think receiving this, this time of year, is ridiculous. It essentially gave us no time to work on anything, That's like saying your child can't read at the beginning of school year and then you come up with a plan to help him read in April, okay?
Right.
So it's just, it's ridiculous. So I don't know if we can get out of this contract, but I don't feel these people, I'm sorry the person left, but that was December. And every business has to have somebody. I know you, just because somebody leaves, the job's got to go on. So I don't, and apparently that wasn't a problem the year before because she was there and it still wasn't submitted till now. So not very happy with this firm. Don't know anything about them other than,
Now, are you saying that, I'm confused on your timeline on when we've received this, because we received a copy,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but in reality.
That's actually one of the soonest, that's the quickest times we've had, because we've had times where we've received it the day before.
Well, no. I mean,
No,
but
I'm not talking about that part.
yeah, it's when in the calendar year we receive it.
Calendar.
When we really should be having this meeting at the end of January or early February, getting the actual results back from them has been taking long, and so we have to get an extension with the state in order to do it. We've, like I kind of mentioned at the last meeting, we did have a sit down with them with Wesley at the after we got the audit last year of how we wanted to see things change this year. It didn't happen. I will say, but the problem being so close to the end of the fiscal year, I think we're probably going to, we did discuss this. The calendar is too tight to go out for a bid for the fiscal 2025 audit, the next year's audit. But we can give them notice on the following year where we can go out, beginning the process in the summer to do a competitive bid on that.
Is it possible for them to do like a progressive, quarterly piece to it, like the first quarter? They can go ahead and have that ready so that you got the second quarter.
Well, and that's one of the conversations that that we had with not with the auditor, but with the actual finance department.
Right.
Is
Instead of
there
doing a
used to
cram
be
session?
kind of monthly reports with y'all, and it got a little too voluminous. So what we would like to do is do quarterlies with y'all, and just so you can see. Have a better idea of where the county is standing year over year.
Sure.
But that's done internally with the department, with kind of Mark being taken out of the day-to-day to concentrate more on strategic and
Yeah, we definitely
reporting.
look at cost on that as well,
Yeah.
because that's definitely going to drive that up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. When we do the bid, it is going to be a little bit more expensive on the audit. And that's simply because it costs more when you bring a new auditor in. Their first years, they probably lose money on. But we should probably look at doing these things on 5-year contracts, and then actually bringing somebody new in, cycling folks out.
Because ACCG, they recommend
Yeah.
at the most 5
Right.
5 years at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that's, I think, maybe the process we look at for now, because they have been our auditor since at least I've been here. So it's about, so my understanding, it's about 10 years.
Well, have we already renewed the contract? And
Yes, and so we
Is there
did
no
go out for
addendum we could
competitive
do
bid.
to a service level agreement so that we could expect, a deadline per se?
Yeah, and so that's one of the things we're going to look at in the, and I'm not sure how long the agreement was, Mark, do you remember?
I'm trying to look it up now. I think it may have been 3 years.
Yeah, I think it was 3 years, so we're at the end of the third year anyway.
Well, given,
Yeah.
they can concede that they're late.
Right.
Is it possible to go to them and set up some kind of SLA with them to say, we need things by X date?
Well-
Give them another pep talk again.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend anyway, is say, look, we are probably going a different direction the following year, but that does not negate your responsibilities to be timely this coming year.
Well, I'm gonna give them an opportunity to improve as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any harm, even if they've been an excellent auditor. I don't think it hurts to move around with these types of things, just.
I think it's important
I
to.
think it's important
Yeah,
because you
it gives a
just,
fresh set of eyes on the
yeah,
numbers.
and
right.
say, oh, well, you're in with these guys and they're gonna make sure they write it up like you want to.
Yeah.
I think it's good to move around anyway.
Great. All right, any further discussion? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get 5 in to go ahead and get this approved, and then we'll move on to
Does that
planning.
need to be approved?
Sorry,
Yeah, there is
Yeah,
another
the next
component to
item.
this. It's just, the last component of this is just a request for y'all to approve us to submit the audit to the state.
yeah, I'm moving on to that right now.
Okay, great.
Yep, before we get to planning, so. Item number 5, consideration to approve to transmit the fiscal year 2024 audit annual financial report to the state of Georgia. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Now, we will move in 9 minutes behind
What are we at, 6?
to our planning. First item on the agenda is a public hearing. This Sue Anderson is agent for Brian Jenkins. Request a variance from section 3.3.1 for an increase in accessory structure building height located at 114 Cypress Drive, zoned PD, map number 465B, parcel number 42 in the 5th District. Mr. Kiefer, didn't you need to excuse yourself from this time, or?
No.
Okay,
Nope, I'm good.
very good.
Soon, though.
Hey.
Hey, you're not Elizabeth.
I am, by far, I am not Elizabeth. Do you want to maybe let people know that the last item was canceled in case they're here for that, please?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
So item number 7 and 8, consideration to approve an application by William J. Burgess has been postponed and taken off the agenda. And that's moving to May 5th.
20.
May 20th. So if anyone's here for that, we're not gonna be hearing that tonight.
Tiny home.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody.
So this is a variance request from Article 3, which is accessory structures in a residential district, 3.3.1, maximum height. So this applicant currently lives on an acre property in Silverwood subdivision, zoned to PD. This proposed two-story accessory structure is approximately 21 feet tall. And currently, we have a maximum height of 1.5 story or 15 feet above the finished grade in R and PDR. And the structure meets all the setbacks. It's not in the flood zone, it's not in the wetland, but it is 6 feet over our current height limit.
How many feet over? I'm sorry?
6 feet.
Okay. Very good. Is anyone here representing this? Hold on. How you doing? State your name for the record, please.
Brian Jenkins. And basically, the building's gonna be the same house as existing home. It's a house structure or a double garage. It's 21 foot tall. I don't see how you can do the roof at 14. I think the code is now 14.5. I would have to build basically a flat roof to do that. And I wanted, and the architecture review committee at Silverwood has asked me to build it the same pitch as the existing roof for aesthetics, and I would prefer it that way also.
Do you have any architectural drawings to
I do,
present?
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Would you like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Just if you want to pull them up or however, what's going to work best for everybody.
Do we
to
have
see.
them on here?
I'll bring them up if I.
So basically just trying to match the roof line?
Sorry to get it right. It basically looks exactly like the existing house, just a smaller view with the dormers, the 12 pitch roof.
Yeah, that's
A double
21
garage.
feet there. It doesn't take much to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would think I'd have to build like a 212 roof, and it'd basically be a flat roof to meet that covenants. And in the last year, residents have built multiple homes 25 foot above, or garages 25 foot and above.
Yeah.
And something's happened in the ordinance that they're not approving anything over 15 foot tall.
gotcha.
And I would have liked to do that.
This is similar to what I dealt with.
Yes, I
And if
heard
you put a
floors
flat
had
roof,
the
it'd look
same floor.
ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, it's a bit, and I asked the building department, the precedent's been set, they've approved these buildings, but something's happened where they have found a code or an ordinance that says you can't build it above 15 foot. But in the past, the county has approved these buildings.
Steve, did the ordinance we did tonight, did that address any of this?
well, we haven't done it yet.
Or,
Sorry.
excuse me, the ordinance
we
that we
discussed.
discussed tonight, will that address some
All
of
but
these
a foot
issues?
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
All but a foot?
Yeah.
Is it, you want 20 foot? or-
20 foot.
Yeah, we said 20, this would be one to be.
I'm
it'd
telling
be a
you, it
variance.
needs to be
That
25,
ain't gonna work.
I'm fine.
at least. I
Whatever you
mean,
guys decide, we can talk
I was
about
just
it.
running, I was doing some quick math. But we can discuss that later at the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would like at least 21 foot because just in case you misjudge a wall or something, and I say 20 foot and it comes up 20 foot 6 inches, I don't want to have that to deal with.
We're-
And I think 25 foot would be even better.
Yeah, we're
because
trying to keep you from having to come forward, with things like this, moving forward, so.
Yeah, sure.
Very good. Any discussion from the board at all? Any questions for Mr. Jenkins?
Like I said, this has been approved by I actually talked with the Architectural Review Committee at
HOAs already
Silverwood.
done.
They were didn't understand why it wasn't approved, because they approved it, and unfortunately, this,
So, Mr. Floyd,
ordinance
do you
is
have
out
the
there.
same problem?
I had the same problem with something.
I was thinking there's some
Were you able
homes
to
out
get
in
yours
Silverwood that
resolved?
have some
gave me
garages
a
similar to
variance.
this,
Yeah.
already built.
That's right.
Already.
I think when this, I have my personal opinion, I think when it was changed, I don't know that it was intended to apply to R1 and
Sure.
or the like.
Very good. All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Is anyone here opposed to this? If so, please come forward. Being there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Sue Anderson as agent for Brian Jenkins. Request a variance from section 3.3.1 for an increase in accessory structure building height located at 114 Cypress Drive, zone PD, map number 465B, parcel number 42 in the 5th district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 3 is a public hearing. Consideration to approve an application by James William Exley for a variance from section 6.2 to reduce the required width of an access easement located on Highway 119, map number 402, parcel number 1 in the 3rd district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Exley is requesting a variance to the subdivision access, section 6.2.12, where 3 lots or less have to have a 60-foot easement. And Mr. Exley's current easement is 15 feet. It's been there 100 years? Okay, close, 40 some odd years. And there's been, no complaints from anybody on that easement. As per the Effingham County ordinance, a minor subdivision, 3 lots or less may be served by a private access unpaved road, but it does require a 60-foot width, but this one's 15, so he's asking a variance in the easement of the existing,
To keep it 15 feet.
to keep the easement 15 feet, yes.
Okay.
How wide would you say the road is?
That's all that's there. The property owners on each side, I don't think are willing to give any more land, and we just wanna have it to where we can go back and do whatever we wanna do with our land.
Yes. Isn't this similar to one we just did off Ebenezer recently?
Courtesy, to use the road all these years, but now everything's got to go through this procedure.
Gotcha. Understood.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Is there anyone here opposed to this? If so, please come forward. There are none. Is there any questions from the commission?
I've talked with Mr. Exley. Oh, hold on.
They couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry.
He asked if anyone
Is it-
opposes this request. You can come up to the microphone and speak if you oppose the request.
I'm sorry. I'll lean in more.
Okay. Well, I am Priscilla Parker. I am deceased Prince Pinckney daughter. You, Bill Exley? Okay, all right. This is the first time that we have heard of this. And so we need to know more about this before we decide what we're gonna do.
Mr. Exley, you have any?
And we can't just say, okay, it's okay for him to have this 60 foot. No, that is not gonna work.
It's only 15, not 60.
Well, 15, well, it
Yeah.
says 60 on that paper.
Yeah, 60 is what's required. He's asking that he maintains the current 15-foot and forego the 60-foot.
Right.
So if we approve it, he would just have that lane that's already there now.
Okay, and I don't think that we are the only one that is involved in this. It's about 3 or 4 more, people that's involved in this.
The only, outside of obvious additional traffic on the road, I'm assuming this is trying to be put for 3 additional lots, is that correct?
I couldn't tell you. I'm
Okay.
planning on, I don't know what, nobody's told me anything about 3 additional lots. I just want access to my property.
Gotcha. So, Steve, you want to come up and explain a little bit?
I know, that's what I want.
I got,
Don't go nowhere. So there was a split of the property, and it's a simple subdivision, but the easement is what is the reason why we're here.
Okay,
So the easement didn't meet the simple subdivision split.
gotcha. Okay.
From years back. It's always been the 15-foot.
Always been.
So hypothetically, if we approve it, there will be no encroachment on anybody's property. It'd be the same as it's always been since.
Nothing is changing but that one split.
Gotcha.
please define what you mean by simple subdivision?
And subdivision, our subdivision ordinance is 0 to 5 lots. Minor subdivision is 6 to 9, and a major subdivision is 10 or more.
So,
I'm not done yet, hold on.
oh,
0 to 5 is approved administratively. 6 to 9 is approved administratively as long as there's not a big function in a road. And in major subdivision, I'll come to you folks.
But he's not asking for a subdivision
He's
to be
not, but he-
approved.
but
He's
he
just
is-
asking for the access.
Right, and that's what threw me off was
Yeah, that's,
the
yeah, but
simple
that, we have to,
subdivision definition.
but that's where the ordinance talks about it.
Understood.
And Mr. Chairman, I guess, just to be clear, you're not granting an easement.
It's already existing already.
Well, even if it's not existing, that's still going to be something that the property owners are going to have to work out. They just can't get to that point until they get the variance to go from the 60 feet. So by granting this, it's not setting an easement if one's not actually there. The property owners still have to work that out. So it's not impairing their property rights. It's just saying, hey, if y'all can agree to a access easement, it can be less than the 60-foot requirement, according to the Effingham County Code.
So there's presently not a 15-foot easement to the property as it sits now?
I don't know that there's, I don't know, sitting here, that if there's a written easement agreement, but you're not going to have that because the whole purpose of this hearing is to get a variance from the 60-foot requirement to have an easement. And then the property owners will have to figure it out, or they're not going to leave here tonight with an easement if there's one that doesn't exist. It's only, they can leave here tonight if you grant this variance with whatever you work out. It can be less than 60 feet, or it can be I think it was 15 feet they're asking for. And that's, what is Mr. Exley stating is that has been used. So there's probably some legal issues there with access, which is not within the purview of the board.
Yeah, that will move to the civil side then.
Correct.
Gotcha.
We don't have the authority to grant unless it was,
That's what I was
unless
wondering.
it was
if
a county
already there,
property.
Right.
Then we would, but, yeah, we can't impose, yeah.
all right, I'm missing something, because he said this road's been there for 40 years and they've been hauling timber in and out of it. So So the easements, there's this, you've got an easement because it's been used that way for years. It might not be in writing, but you can't block that road, correct?
That's a big question.
I've been told all my life that if you've been in and out for so many years, you can't block it.
Well, that's kind of the general rule, but at the end of the day, it's not a.
It was just never
You may have to end up
recorded.
in court to get that, because you can't be landlocked. But if you bought something that's landlocked, it could be a different situation. So there's legal mechanisms to get access, and then there are ways for landowners, if they have used this for a certain number of years, to claim an easement by, say, prescription. But there's just a lot of kind of legal maneuvering that goes along with that. So it's just not a black and white issue. There's a lot of gray in it. But you're generally correct when you say if you've used it all these years, it's there. It can be, but you may have to have a court determine that for you if the parties can't get along.
So how did the property transact? I mean, is it all, it's always been Mr. Exley's, or is it someone else's? And
I'm trying to figure out why we're hearing this if he's got access in and out.
Well,
why are we
they
here?
may disagree. They may say he doesn't have access in and out, or
I haven't heard that from them. They're just worried about 60 feet is what I heard from her.
Well, if I may, I think the issue is the fact that there's a request to subdivide the property with a simple subdivision. And we can't grant that because he doesn't meet the required access easement width. And so if we approve the access easement width variance, then he could subdivide, but ultimately to determine whether or not that access easement exists or whether he's got to work it out with the property owners, that's for him to decide, for him to work out. Ours is just simply that someone came to us and say, I want to subdivide this property. We could normally do it administratively, but he doesn't meet the minimum requirement. And so if we give him the 15-foot variance, he'll be able to subdivide the property. He's just got to work out the, any sort of easement negotiation with the property owner, not with the county.
yeah. And Mr. X can speak for himself here on this, but I'm not sure that it's a request to actually subdivide the property to create separate parcels here. I think it's simply.
I don't know where it is subdivided.
Steve,
All I'm asking for is a variance.
Yeah. Come, do you mind come forward, please?
I don't understand why you need it.
then it's not a simple
And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong here, the subdivision part is,
This is news to me
Part
about a
of it.
subdivision.
yeah, it's not that you want to do it, but in order for us to grant you the easement access, there's a minimum standard, which would be the 3 parcels potential.
No,
that-
because we're not granting,
But we're not granting them.
access.
The reason that we're here is because it has the potential for it. Is that true?
I'm worried about setting a precedent.
Right.
That's my sole concern here.
Yeah. Well,
So-
I mean, what it is you're dealing with one parcel that doesn't have access, and what Mr. Exley's trying to do is get access to that parcel. And part of doing that is getting the authorization. If the landowners are willing to give him 60 feet, then there's really no issue. But the fact that it's going to be less than 60 feet because the way this property is, the dimensions of it, there's not 60 feet really to give.
Well, this reminds me of the situation we dealt with recently on Ebenezer Road.
I thought that already had an easement, though. He was just looking to.
My
get a-
question-
Well, it was something to do with a 20-foot easement, I think, on that one.
Yeah, he was trying to get a 20-foot variance instead
Yeah,
of the
that,
required.
yeah.
My question would be, if he's not gonna subdivide, why do you need a variance?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Well, because
Because
he's
I
not
want
going to get 60 feet.
He
I
needs
want
to
to
gonna be
sell the
less than 60
property, and
feet.
they told me I had to have 60 feet to sell it. And I'm like,
Oh,
it's
you wanna
not
sell
60
it, so
feet
that's the
there to
reason
tell.
why.
Huh?
So you wanna sell it,
Yeah.
But as is, does he need 60 feet
Well, that was
to
what they
exist
told me.
today?
I had to have 60 feet,
I don't
so
know
I
why
had
you
it
would-
all surveyed, and the surveyor, he surveyed the road and said, we only got 15 feet there.
But
So I
unless you're
said,
gonna
"Well,
subdivide,
I
you
need
don't
a-
need
a
60 feet,
variant."
do you?
Well, he's, the next person could be coming
Yeah.
to us.
See,
and
that's
asking
why,
for it.
that's the
But-
precedent
but-
I'm worried
Right.
about.
It's
Well,
a
the
non-conforming lot
Because they won't
Will
comply,
they?
they can't.
with an
Will they?
existing access point.
I don't, that's where I'm at.
I'm-
I'm trying to,
So is he
I'm
trying-
I'm okay with it, but I don't know that it's necessary.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know where
trying to
we're
figure
trying. I
out.
can't
That's
get
what
my
I'm
head
trying to
around.
figure out. If the guy that comes in and buys the property, if he buys it and decides I want to subdivide it,
He should be
then
the one.
he's got to be the one
I'd
to
say
come
he'd be the one
forward
before.
That's his
and
problem.
deal with it. That's his problem.
That's
That's
his
exactly what
problem.
I'm
I
saying.
ain't got nothing
So
to
I
do
don't
with that.
understand, you've got that road in and out, it's been used.
Well,
That's on
because
who
they
to
said
buy.
I had to have a variance to get the legal access to what, it has to be legal, it has to be shown on a plat before I can sell the property. So I've hired a surveyor, and I've had all this map and all this done, cost me quite a bit of money. And he's showing that it's what's there, all I'm asking to use is what's already there. I'm not asking anybody to give up anything or whatever, I just need a variance that says I can use this road to do whatever I wanna do with it, and a variance from not having to have 60 feet. I've already got the 15 feet, I'm just asking for permission to use the road that I've been using.
This plat I'm looking at, is that just a proposed plat? So it's not a record, who said that? Oh, okay, okay, so that, I'm curious what the existing plat looked like, that would be
Yeah.
interesting. Just to
But
understand.
he's selling the property, so we have to have access to the property.
I hadn't
got
sold it
15
yet.
feet, though.
It's
You're right,
according,
you hadn't
it's
sold it
according to
yet, 'cause
what
you're right
goes
here,
on
right?
here.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I'm here.
So he doesn't have 15 feet presently recorded in the plat. Okay, and that's why we're here. He doesn't
I was
have it
under the
recorded.
impression that I had been, it was
I would think that would be his
grandfathered in lane. An old plat listed it as being a lane, and it's been used for years and years. And, I mean, 6 feet on this side and 6 feet on that side. People used to do that all the time, but it never was any really divided or anything legally, and it comes down to this. So
Yes, sir.
that's where we are. I just need a variance.
Lee, just to be clear again, so we're just starting the process, the wheels of process, should we allow this variance of civil action with the potential landowners and negotiation with the buyer of the property, is that correct?
It is, but I think our ordinance, and Steve can comment on this as well, that, again, take the subdividing out of it. That's not what he's saying to
That's
be done.
Right.
You need, the way the ordinance reads, it's 60 feet. And so that's his purpose here today, is to get a variance from that 60 feet, because he doesn't have written legal access to it now. And I think that's clear about the lady that showed up here tonight.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get that worked out, but that's not within this board's purview to get into that. I think it's simply tonight, or do you want to agree to allow less than 60 feet?
So even if we moved it forward tonight, they may not work something out and it may not be granted, period?
Correct.
To record the plat, he's gotta get us to sign off on it.
Okay.
We can't sign off on it if that's a landlocked piece of property that doesn't have access.
Okay,
Follow
Okay.
me?
it's coming full circle now.
Yeah, all right. Now that makes sense now.
So we sign every plat that comes through.
Yeah.
This plat cannot be signed until it has access to the property.
Ma'am, I want to make sure you understand, because our brains were boggled too.
Yeah, mine is.
So should the board approve this tonight, it's not guaranteeing that that's going to be, that road's there. That just starts the process for whoever, the seller or the buyer, to negotiate with you guys the easement allowable, whether it be 15 feet or they come before us and want more, but 15 feet's where it's at right now. So we don't have the authority to take your land away, for example, in this situation. We're just allowing the process to begin for him to get to be, to start the negotiations with you all. Is that correct, Lee? Okay.
I still don't understand why we have to do it first. Why can't they work? Because technically, if it's an old road, you know, I'm familiar with that, I know exactly what you're talking about. We've got some. But why does, I mean, but there's no, technically, it's just been allowed. Nobody, who owns that piece, 15 feet? How do we have the authority to say we can grant an easement when there's really, nobody really knows who owns that 15
But
feet?
you're not granting an easement. You're not giving an easement.
A variance. I meant a variance. I should have said the word variance, not easement. My mistake there.
Yeah.
Okay,
But just, I just want to be clear, because
To grant the variance, that 15 feet could be on the other side of the property across another piece of property,
correct,
right?
correct. It gives them the negotiating point. They got to know what they can have before they can go out and try to get it.
And
Okay,
I
before
think an
they-
important point is, just because you approve this tonight does not give us authority to sign that plat.
Still doesn't give us authority.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is just the beginning, a checkbox that has to be done for negotiations to begin with you and every other person that will be affected by this, access road here.
Tonight?
That's later down the road, whenever he decides to move forward with that.
Okay,
I
so
got a buyer
when
that's
he,
waiting to purchase the property. I mean, the bank's not gonna lend him the money if he can't get access to a piece of property.
Sure.
That's all I'm asking for, is access to something that we own.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for y'all to give anything more than's already there. I'm not asking for a 60-foot wide road. I just wanna be able to use the 15 feet that we've been using for all these years.
So when you had the property surveyed, that 15-foot was not part of your property plat, is that correct?
Part of the plat that was presented to us that needed to be signed,
Okay,
yeah,
and here we are.
so it belongs to somebody,
Yeah, that's the question.
which could be the individual homeowners that are on that
Along
road
it.
as well.
Exactly.
Which would take them to you, which would be probably his buyer, would be coming to you with an offer, and your neighbor, and the next neighbor, and however many neighbors are down the road, to purchase that 15-foot from you and your neighbor, and so on and so forth.
okay,
So
so
this
they,
just starts the process for it. Nothing's gonna change hands tonight at all.
okay, so nothing will be done until we talk to the buyer.
That, it turns into a civil issue at that point, to where it goes out of our hands, and you guys work it out amongst yourselves.
Okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
So can I
Makes
use my,
sense.
can I go to my property now, to the road, have I got to buy, access?
I mean, unless she blocks it off, that's all. That's all I can tell you. I can't, we're not giving,
So what you telling me, I don't legally have access to my property unless I buy it?
I don't think that's in our purview.
Don't know.
Satisfied with the
I don't think
15
that's-
foot? If he don't increase it, are you good with him going in and out of his property?
I think she can only speak for her.
Look, I can only speak for myself. It's more than me involved in this.
Right, but if he
okay?
drives in there now, are you upset or anybody upset about him using what's already there?
No, I'm not, but I don't know about the other ones. You
Right,
know,
I
I can't
understand,
speak
but-
for them because I'm only speaking for myself.
Steve, have you ever had a complaint
The
with
road's
him
not-
running up
the road's
down?
not on
No,
that-
it's not.
The road is not on their land. The road show, if the road's, if it doesn't show it being on their land.
It's prescriptive, it is on their
It's
land.
prescriptive,
Like
though. It
us.
is on their land.
Yeah, it's on somebody's,
So it's like a little road. It's
Yeah,
like a
I
little
mean, I
road,
understand
maybe about
this.
like this here,
This is-
you know?
it's
It's
le-
not that big. The road is not that
He
big.
needs to-
My grandmother used to live back there, you know, and the road used to go back there to her house. And the road never changed. It's the same little old road. It's about this wide.
And that sounds about like what we would, that variance is gonna be for
yeah,
just a little
15
dirt
foot's
road.
about from
It's very
here to
small.
you.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah. It's not that big.
yeah. Okay,
I
so,
still believe if it were to go to the court.
so
to
what
figure
we're
it out,
giving you tonight,
have to approve whatever the judge signs off on.
They have to, but I just don't,
But
I
it-
just
but
think
it
we
ain't-
got
I
to, think
know
we're
that
going
ain't
to put the
happened
cart
yet.
before the
That
horse.
hadn't happened yet.
Done everything, we've maintained the road for all these years. I mean, nobody else has done anything as far as upkeeping the road, cutting any bushes out, or anything. I've done all of the work.
Stipulation that it can't be subdivided without.
Mr. Chairman,
it's
Mr. Chairman,
unfortunate. Yes, sir.
what, I may recommend you just table this, let the
Okay.
property owners talk,
Yes.
and,
Yep.
I'll agree.
Maybe come back to the May the 6th meeting? So what we're doing is considering tabling this. That way you can get with the property owners there. You guys can work out your negotiations or with your buyer. You guys talk, and then we'll have a little bit better understanding of everything as it sits right now. And that would be at the May 6th meeting. Or, we can entertain a motion to approve or deny, one or the other. So up to you guys.
Whose district's it in?
It's mine.
Have you driven the road, Jamie? Are you familiar with the property, or?
I've been by the property a lot of times. It's off Reedsville Road over in Clio.
It goes straight down to Gold Kiss. If the Gold Kiss Road went across the road, it would go straight on. It's a straight line.
Yeah,
I think the old road's been there for, ain't no telling how long.
it's unfortunate, it's never been platted.
Yeah, ever since my grandmother was staying back there, it been there.
I'm not questioning, I understand that completely. I'm just saying, I just think that in this day and age, those old times ain't working no more. I mean, I'm hit as much as y'all. I just think there needs to be something, and I don't think it's the commission's right to do it. I think that the property owners need to get together and say, this is formally the road that we're gonna allow for the easement. Then come back here, and we've got something in writing. And you don't have to worry about the size of it, you don't have to worry about anything else. This is what we're allowing, and then come back here, and then if you want a variance, then we'll consider the variance. But right now, since it's prescriptive, we don't know who owns it.
Well,
I'm not sure we'd have to grant a variance then. I just don't.
Well, we may
I
not
don't
then,
understand.
until whoever buys it wants to
I mean,
do
I'm all
something
for
with
it,
it.
yeah, I just, like, the
Yeah.
precedence is what we have to be careful.
Yeah,
right,
I'm just
so.
worried
I
about
don't
what's
know that
gonna happen
we're-
in the future.
So basically, he
I'm
gets
all
a
for it.
negotiation, the variance will come before us when the potential buyer would,
Comes up with what they wanna do.
what they
with it.
wanna do with it.
I don't even know who the buyer is. Y'all talking about something that's
Yeah.
not even pertaining to what I got going on. All I'm asking for is a variance from 60 feet to 15 feet. Is what I was told, that was all the land that's there. That's all we can use. That way I'm not encroaching on any of the property owners, the right owner, the left owner. 15 feet's what we've been using. I'm just asking for a variance to be able to use that road to get to and from my property, or to do whatever I see fit to do with my property. If I wanna sell it, or if I wanna dig a pond on it, or whatever, all I'm asking for is to be able to use the road that I've been using most of my life.
Let's just buy.
If I got to do something different than that, tell me, but I mean,
It's
to
out
me,
there
I
in
can't
Clio.
understand. I was told all I needed to get was a variance. I'm not asking for 60 feet, I'm asking for 15 feet. That's just what, how wide is a lane on the highway?
All right, guys,
About 11 or 12 feet?
Yeah, Jamie, you
I
wanna?
agree.
this is where I'm at. I mean, this thing's been used for decades. As our attorney said, we are not granting an easement. We are granting a variance so he can start a negotiation or talks with the landowners, and I'm fine with granting the variance. So I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Well, no.
Did you get that recorded, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right. Interesting.
So we can't do the second reading, right?
Yeah, we cannot do the second reading.
I don't believe we've met. I'm Bill Exton.
Wait, why wouldn't we?
Because it was not.
It wasn't
Oh, it's not
unanimous.
Unanimous, that's right. I'm sorry, you're right.
This is something we need to look into, though.
I truly believe that Bill is missing.
Yeah, this is an excellent opportunity to identify some properties that have this.
I don't either, but I think this is something we need to set.
Very
We
good.
need to have some more
All right.
clear-cut stuff on this.
Keep the ball rolling here.
That's it on planning board, I think.
Moving on to item number 5. It's a public hearing, consideration to approve an application by Cole Simmons for a variance from section 3.4 to allow for the placement of a mobile office within the buffer located at 100 Crimson Way, map number 465, parcel number 23 in the second district.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a set of apartments going in Goshen. And they're wanting to put a construction trailer in the buffer area to the east, near the Learning Center located at 100 Crimson Way. Mr. Simmons is here, who's heading up the construction of that property, can speak about it. And so it's a granting of a variance. Again, Article 3, Section 3.4 buffers. And we all know what buffers are about, but the following in the ordinance are the only permitted encroachments: drainage ditches, utility service lines, sidewalks, pathways, lighting fixtures, signs, poles, structural elements such as privacy fences or walls, and landscaping, retaining walls, and of course, berms. So currently, that's what the design standards say that are allowed in the buffer. So the use of a mobile office within the buffer is something that we've not encountered before. If you'll notice on the picture there where the red line is over there in the buffer, so it's more towards the front is where he's proposing to put the mobile office.
How long is it, I mean, it's gonna be, how long is the office gonna be there? Got a temporary?
Yes.
Chairman, can I be excused?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to go.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Good evening. Good luck.
How you doing,
sir?
My name's Ryan Litz. I project executive with North South Constructs. We're GC in the project. Trailer's temporary. We're trying to get it in. Normally, I try and keep trailers towards the front so we can control traffic and deliveries and everything going in and out of the job site. That's right at the entranceway. It'll be where we had it marked there in the red. It's back beyond where our curbing is and everything else, so it won't inhibit us as far as construction. We have since installed a 6-foot privacy fence with windscreen on it to protect us from the daycare and so forth. It goes all the way around the perimeter of the property in the front. I'd say if this passes, the trailer it still can't go in. We have one section of sewer that has to go in prior to that, and then it'll be graded and compacted, and then the trailer will sit there temporarily, probably until 2 months before completion of the project. The project is scheduled to conclude, I believe, next June. So it will probably sit there from now until May, beginning of next May. If it was a problem, we're just trying to get it in so that we can control the site. If it was a problem, we would just delay it. And we'd have to wait till we put curb and binder down and find a spot after the pavement was down to sit it, where it's shown on the property. But we're just trying to keep it towards the front and enable our resources to be on site, working with a trailer that we use for meeting with the owners and so forth and so on a monthly basis.
Very good. Any questions from the board?
The current area of the silt fence, where it stops there, where's the buffer line from there? I mean, I've looked a few times, and it looks like, I mean, have we already disturbed the buffer there, and then you want to put that in there?
No, the buffer's it's sitting in the buffer. The silt fence and the exterior perimeter fencing and the property line are outside of it. So we're inside the limits of disturbance.
The silt fence is?
The trailer is inside the silt fence, yes.
Okay. So it's not in the buffer?
No, it is in the buffer.
It is in the buffer.
Okay, yeah.
So that place has already been cleared completely?
Yes.
The buffer has?
Yes.
So the buffer's been cleared where you want to place the trailer?
It's odd because it's marked as a buffer in that area. The silt fence is beyond that. Like the buffer continues past where the silt fence is towards the property line, but due to where the sewer line and everything runs through there, it was disturbed. Initially, it wasn't, and then there was a There was an addendum noted from the engineer, that it was disturbed and stripped, and then upon completion, we're gonna build like a berm and plant, I think, 8 or 9 trees there.
So they're gonna replace the buffer after
Right.
the construction's done, right?
But in the meantime, you want to put the trailer where the disturbed buffer is that correct?
Yeah, it'll be, compacted and everything after the sewer, and we will make sure that it, like, erosion controls are met, whether we use sod or grass or whatever, but it will be maintained throughout the process of the building of the property.
Okay. And the need for the trailer is to serve as a leasing spot, or is it a construction trailer?
No,
like-
it's strictly construction
Okay.
for our people there.
Where are you guys staging now?
Nowhere. We're working out of our cars.
Where's the parking gonna be for all these people that's gonna keep coming and going?
Work, like the workers?
You know, anybody that's gonna come to that trailer and meet with you, where are you gonna park them?
Oh, I apologize. So it's primarily just for on-site activity. Once a month when the owners and stuff come, they'll come up, like, we're in the process now of getting the building pads and the parking areas ready, while we run utilities. So there is an area inside there that they can pull in and park. It's just, right now, it's just sand. It's compacted sand.
So is it gonna be in the buffer where you're considering doing that parking?
No, all the only thing that will be placed in the buffer is that trailer. Everything else will be contained on the actual job site, like where the parking is shown and so forth and so on.
And how soon will the construction of the buildings be habitable to a degree?
Habitable as far as,
if I wanted to go in there and get out of the rain? Not necessarily
Under
new and
roof?
ready, yeah, but under roof, yeah.
so we've encountered unsuitable soils, so we're pushing through a 60-day delay. I'd say, hopefully, we have piers that need drilled in the building pad, end of April. I'd say October, November. We should be framed up and under roof.
Yeah.
And at that point, we would have curb and binder and everything else in,
Yeah,
but
'cause typically most construction sites, they either have a designated spot already reserved for the trailer or you meet inside the structure that you're, currently building. Okay.
the trailer, I think the proposed trailer is 12 by 40, or 12 by 60.
Gotcha. Just the disturbed buffers are getting to be a habitual thing, so they're kind of a bad point
I got
up
you.
here.
I think though the fact that, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but as long as they put the buffer back and plant vegetative growth.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
no
just during the
doubt.
construction phase.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
disturbed.
No doubt.
If you wanna come up, you can talk.
I think she's opposing, isn't she?
Thanks, sir.
Hey, my name is Jana Fox. I am the owner of the Learning Tree House. So, we're learning to coexist with new neighbors. I guess my biggest concern is, what does this thing look like? It is directly next to our parking lot. So anyone who pulls in, current or prospective families, I guess, for up to a year, are gonna be looking at the back of this thing. It was our understanding that we would have some sort of more of a buffer than what we have, but that did not happen, and that's okay. We're rolling with the punches, but we don't want to create any sort of, bad relationships or anything like that, but we definitely don't want to be staring at the back of a trailer.
If you
For
come
a
around
year.
to the front right here, or you can see it, I'm sorry, on your side, I forgot you got a screen, that red rectangle is where that is that?
Mm-hmm.
And you're to the southeast of it, is that right?
Right
Well,
next
our
next
parking
door.
lot is like right there,
Right,
yeah.
okay,
And then our building and the playground and all that stuff.
okay.
So we're not completely opposed, but also now that I know it might be, all the way to next May, that does kind of give me some reservations of what we're gonna be looking at the back of.
Is there no vegetative buffer on that?
Well, it was my understanding that there would be, but,
So why did the buffer go away that was supposed to be there?
It's a good question.
yeah,
Why
that's a
did the
great
buffer go
question.
away that was supposed to be there already at the front entrance area?
I think upon design of upon the completion of the design of the utilities and where the sewer tap is coming in and running back there, if you see like those dotted lines right there, like right beside the curb line is where the sewer had to run back, and then the initial plan was for like the trees that were there to stay, but they had to come down in order for the sewer and the water lines and the storm to run in. So it was without, like, I wasn't part of that process, but engineering and architecture basically put ASI 1 out that changed that, and it got removed and will be replaced with vegetation and trees and so forth.
But that's
at the
gonna be
end.
at the completion of the job, right?
Yeah, during landscape.
See, we've got to get away from this somehow. This putting the cart before the horse thing, the reason that, I understand that you have utilities and things that need to be done,
Well, that should have been part
but
of the
that should be
plan.
part of the
Yeah.
design plan, not taking out what's supposed to be buffers there already. That's why we have buffers, is to
Agreed.
have a buffer.
Yeah.
If you
But
take
if
them
the
down, then you
utility
got-
easement is in the buffer, what do you do? I mean,
It's not allowed to be in the buffer.
well, there you go.
there.
If it's an undisturbed buffer.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry is too late. I mean, yes, you're sorry, but meanwhile,
It's gone.
I agree. My 2 cents, I don't like it. I mean,
I don't understand how we don't have corrective measures done right away on things like this to go ahead and start the process, because it takes time for trees to grow. Just put a berm in, put a fence in, whatever, to not impede on your neighbor, which is the reason we have buffers to begin with, whether it be visually or dirt, dust, those
So
things,
when
noise.
when the development plan is approved, it's approved what was originally, we go out and have a pre-construction meeting. He was there, we told him don't remove the buffers, and then he comes tonight and says that they had to do a whole sewer plan that was approved by an architect and somebody else.
Okay,
So I'm hearing it too.
so
Have you seen it? Have any of you guys seen it?
I haven't personally been on the road.
Yeah, I haven't driven by there, but yeah, so
So why is this project, and I'm just speaking from my mind
hypothetically,
here,
yeah.
why is it still moving forward without corrective action being done on what was originally the framework of the property to begin
So
with?
we don't visit every day. If somebody would have called and said they removed the buffer from the project, we will send code enforcement out there to look.
Okay, then
Just like happened on Ale property.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, why don't we make a consideration to table it, and so code enforcement can go out, take a look and see, and then bring this back to us at the next meeting? Is that
I'd like
acceptable?
to hear the variance tonight.
So
I'd like to hear the variance tonight.
You like to go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we could have code enforcement handle the rest of it. But I see it every day, and there's already a traffic buildup there every day with dump trucks and everything else. There's just not enough room.
I will tell you, and I don't mean to interrupt, but when you guys are looking at that Goshen Road proposal or whatever, I know that there's a 3-lane coming down the road. It is pretty scary.
Yeah.
You should sit in our driveway at 5
I've seen it,
PM.
yeah. I
You
see it every day.
cannot see past that curb, especially if they have a dump truck in the driveway. I appreciate the fence with the silt that meant that we don't have to do it, but now that those trees are gone, we're gonna have to build a fence.
Exactly.
That we didn't anticipate as a small business having to build. Because, I stood here and we talked about having those trees and keeping those trees there.
Yeah.
I didn't quite know I could call and report that all the trees had been scalped, but now that I know that, I'll be sure to
I've
do that.
seen it
But
myself, and that's why I
be
was
sure to
asking about
visit,
that.
when the foundation is shaking throughout the day as well. But like I said, we're really trying to not create a, bad relationship here. We're gonna have to coexist with these people for another year, just about, but it is really disappointing. And those trees actually provided a lot of shade on our playground that is just gone completely. And it's pretty sad, so.
Well, as I was gonna say, you know, the putting a building on the road is the last thing I'd wanna see. And then if you're gonna use that as a check-in point for trucks, you're just gonna back it up even more. And we're already in a buffer that's not supposed to be disturbed, so I would not be in favor of approval of this at all.
I'll second. What was that motion?
Can I make a motion?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
Do we have to close the public hearing
Yeah.
first?
Yeah. Does anyone else want to speak on this? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. There are none. I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny the variance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. All right, so that removes item number 6 as well. Thank you. All right,
On
that'll
6.
close out our planning board, right? We don't need to do a second.
Yeah, that's right. And we're on item 6, I think, on,
Yeah, we were at item
Business.
6 on new
Take a
business.
quick-
Yeah, well, let's take about 5 minutes, real quick break, and we'll reconvene. My brain hurts after tonight, goodness gracious.
So they've put utilities in here.
I didn't understand.
got a,
And it's gonna, this warehouse, is the biggest one in Fort Worth. It's going 21.
Very good.
80 trucks.
Bring us back into new business here. Item number 6, consideration to approve the first reading to amend section 3.3 accessory structures in residential districts of Effingham County Code of Ordinances.
So we talked about this particular item at the workshop. And the language that seemed to be agreed upon at the time was maximum height of an accessory structure in a R or PDR residential district, not AR1, not AR2, would be 20 feet at the eave, but not exceeding the height of the adjacent principal structure on the same lot, and 35 feet in AR1, AR2. And I think Commissioner Kiefer, before he left, said he would like to see 25.
I think 25, because we just saw an example of.
25 is good.
I'd be fine with 25.
I'll be fine with that
Yeah,
too.
and if something happens with 25, we'll come back and tell you something's happened to 25.
Okay.
That's fine. You
Thank
need a
you.
motion?
Yes, and then we'll do a second reading in May 6th.
So move that we amend or approve, 25 feet for the accessory structures in residential districts.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And this, section 3.3 is not part of the steering committee, so that's why we're bringing it to you now.
Very good. Item number 7, consideration to approve and authorize execution of a utility relocation agreement between Effingham County and Georgia Power Company for relocation of utility infrastructures related to the Courthouse Road realignment project.
Good evening. Danielle Carver, Procurement and Contracts Manager. So the power lines need to be relocated for the Courthouse Road realignment project. This agreement outlines the work Georgia Power will do to move their lines out of the way and of the new road. This agreement has been reviewed by the county attorney and includes deadlines to make sure the work gets done on time and doesn't hold up the project. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consideration to approve resolution number 025-014 to amend the 2025 fiscal year budget.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes, Finance Director. This is a small amendment that handles a few miscellaneous projects. The painting project at CM that was approved earlier in the year by the board, body cameras for code enforcement officers, the master planning for the county recreation facilities, and a few miscellaneous adjustments to the fire and rescue department. Staff recommends alternative number 1 to approve the budget amendment.
Thank you, sir.
I know we did the body cameras a few years ago. This is like an upgrade for them or just additional?
This one is for the code enforcement officers. And
Oh, the code enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, good, good idea.
I'll entertain a motion if no questions.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Item number 9, consideration to approve the award of a construction contract to Legacy Water Group LLC for the Hodgeville Sanitary Sewer Force Main Project under invitation for bid number 23 ITB-060.
Effingham County received multiple bids for the construction of the new Hodgeville Sanitary Sewer Force Main. Let's see, do I have this? Yeah. Sorry. Legacy Water Group submitted the lowest responsible bid, and staff recommends awarding the contract based on their proposal, which includes alternate installation method for improved efficiency. This installation method was selected based on engineering review and to help reduce future maintenance impacts while staying aligned with the county's infrastructure goals. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Thank you. If no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consideration to approve an agreement with GDOT for Effingham County to contribute toward right-of-way costs for the Ebenezer Creek project at Stillwell Road and to sign a required immigration compliance certification.
This is an agreement with GDOT related to the Stillwell Road at Ebenezer Creek project, which has been added to the statewide transportation improvement plan. As part of the process, GDOT is asking the county to contribute $50,000 towards the right-of-way cost. Staff recommends alternative 1.
And to be clear, this is a replacement of the bridge over the Ebenezer on Stillwell Road.
Just right there on the edge of Springfield, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the immigration piece?
Oh, it's federally funded, and so we're required to sign a document that we're going to comply with federal immigration
Gotcha.
law.
That's kind of what I figured it was, so, perfect. All right. No questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 11, change order. Consideration to approve change order number 1 to Pond and Company for expanded design services for the SR 30 and Midland Road Roundabout project, including revision to a multi-lane roundabout and extension of project limits.
Yeah, this is Jonathan Holm, County Engineer. This proposal came about, as you guys are aware, there's also another roundabout currently in the PFPR process with GDOT, right there adjacent to this roundabout at Midland 30. It's the Colic-Hemley 30, and so conversations started coming up with the two roundabouts being so close together and making sure that, you know, the second one, which is the State Route 30 Midland roundabout, is, you know, going to also accommodate the nearby adjacent roundabout. So after discussing with GDOT about, you know, both roundabouts, you know, the conversation was to increase the single lane roundabout to a multi-lane, and then this proposal also includes expanding Highway 30 to multi-lane and as well. So staff's recommending alternative number 1.
Just for the area between the two roundabouts. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
This is just design,
It's $314,911.
massive.
Yeah, it is. It's just designed. It includes additional survey that was not included in the original scope, and any impacts that are associated with that.
Seems like a lot just for down
Yeah,
on the widening portion of this. Is that?
Curious how
Oh,
many.
no, that's the total, including all of the, correct, Jonathan?
700,000 is the total now.
700,000 is the total.
Sorry.
And
This is an additional 370?
But does that
Correct.
include the, like I said, the widening from the two, it's not just the design of the
it's not just the
roundabout, it's
design of the, that's right. It's
the
not
widening
just,
of 30 between the two roundabouts.
that's right. And I'm trying to set up a meeting. We're going to have a meeting with GDOT to talk about reimbursement of, you know, this cost as well, to see if they'll partner with us in this. But with this, you know, coming in here before you tonight, we can proceed on with the design recommendations that are there. So,
It's big numbers, okay.
Yeah, it seems like a lot for a few feet.
The original number was just for the roundabout,
Yes.
This
A
thing-
single lane roundabout.
single lane. This is going to double and includes
Yeah,
the
this
design
increases it
between
to
the
a
two
double lane
roundabouts.
and then the widening between. So, sorry about that.
that's right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You're,
No further
I don't
questions?
speak engineering, so you,
No further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item number 12, consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Chatham County Savannah Metropolitan Planning Commission to jointly administer the SR 26 US 80 Scoping Study Phase 2 in Effingham County.
This MOU is a partnership with the Chatham County Savannah MPC to move forward with Phase 2 of the State Route 26 and US 80 scoping study. The project was awarded federal planning funds, and the MPC will handle issuing, managing the RFP to hire a consultant for the work. So Effingham County's role is to provide the required 20% local match, which will not exceed $54,000. We'll also be involved in selecting the consultant and setting the final scope of work. So this study supports regional planning and will help shape future improvements to the corridor. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unopposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consideration to approve the purchase of a 1.12 wetland mitigation credits from ML South Augusta LLC for the Effingham County Wastewater Treatment Facility Expansion Project.
As part of the wastewater treatment facility expansion, we're required by the Army Corps of Engineers to purchase wetland mitigation credits to offset the environmental impacts tied to this project. The Corps has confirmed that we need to purchase 1.12 credits. So ML South America LLC, or South Augusta LLC, has the available credits through the Finzi Swamp Mitigation Bank, and they're provided a statement of credit availability and an invoice. This purchase keeps us in compliance with the federal permit requirements and helps keep the project on schedule. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Thank you.
What does a credit equal in acreage, Jonathan? Or Trey?
Depending on the impact, it's usually 6 or 7 credits per acre.
6 or 7, wow.
And in the last 15 years, credits have gone from 15,000 per credit to now they're 85 to 90,000.
So this could be like 400 grand an acre from,
Yeah, wait till you see that.
There's currently one wetland bank, so they have a monopoly on the credits. So just in the last month, they've gone from 80 to 90.
We better buy it while we can.
no doubt. Has it got a tariff on it?
Yes.
Dang Chinese.
No questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unopposed? Motion carries. Item number 14, consideration to approve the revised purchase of wetland mitigation credits related to the Hodgeville Sanitary Sewer Force Main Project, 23-ITB-060, reflecting changes to the project's construction method and reduction in impacted wetlands.
Yes, sir, a very similar thing. The original credit requirement was reduced due to changes in how the utility line will be installed through wetlands. So instead of open cut methods, the line will now be installed by directional drilling in certain areas, which avoids disturbing the wetlands. So this change reduces the total credits needed. So staff recommends alternative 1.
Okay, that's revised to 1.28. Is that correct? Yeah. 106 and 547,000. No questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unopposed? Motion carries. Item 15, consideration to approve a funding request letter related to the construction of Effingham Parkway at Blue Jay Road and Highway 30.
Wait a sec, let me ask something,
Oh.
because this didn't say, who's the, company handling that? That's not EMC on that one, is it? Because if it is, I may not should have voted.
Who's doing the design of this roundabout?
The,
No,
Item
the-
14.
Or the last one?
yeah, 14.
No,
It was in regards to the wetland credit
It was
purchase.
regarding the Rutland credit, because I
Yeah,
thought
not
it
the
said something that
design.
was going
Yeah, not
underneath the,
design, yeah.
has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I just
separate
didn't want to do anything.
Necessary evil for EMC to do their job.
No, that's fine, just so long it's not showing partiality.
Very good.
Okay,
All right.
sorry.
Yep, no worries, Jonathan Holm, County Engineer. This is a letter to agree approve the $4 million for the contribution of the latest change order for Effingham Parkway. The $4 million is for specifically the Blue Jay Effingham roundabout. GDOT would be paying the remainder of that, which would be $4,570,048.34. GDOT has also agreed to fund the Goshen Road roundabout, which was roughly $7.3 million, And then Bro has also agreed to pay for the Gateway Roundabout. Tentative dates.
Construct it themselves.
That's right. And they're going to be building it themselves. GDOT's agreed to allow them to be able to, bid that more competitively. The dates that are associated with this change order that are tentative, assuming that this goes through, GDOT can then formally, approve the change order, and the dates will hopefully, reflect this. But tentatively, what GDOT is telling us is that Gateway Parkway to 30 would not be complete until April 30th of 2026. And then Blue Jay to Gateway Parkway would not be complete until July 31st of 2026. The original completion date of the Parkway, as you all know, was September of 2025. So this is a pushback in the estimated completion date. And then there would still be a date that would be to be determined for the roundabout at Gateway Parkway, because Bro would be putting that out. But I would assume it's about a year timeline after they put it out to bid.
So a portion of Effingham Parkway we'd expect to be open by the end of April of 2026?
Yes, that'd be from Gateway to Highway 30.
Okay.
Gateway 30, yeah.
And that's just north of Goshen Road. Gateway's right there off of McCall today, where there's a roundabout.
When do you think Bro will do the Gateway roundabout?
Assuming that let's say they were to go out and put it out to bid and then get it awarded in May or June, I assume it's a 12-year turnaround.
Do we have any say in how quick they get it done? I mean, is it a partnering thing?
GDOT does.
GDOT does?
Yeah, and my understanding is that weren't they committed to the April 30th date on the Gateway?
I believe that's what they're targeting, but I haven't seen it a contract in writing yet, so
Sure.
I'm a little hesitant to
I understand.
say that publicly.
Flat date or a
You just
completion
did.
date?
That's a completion date, so.
I know.
That'd be impressive.
Yeah, so that those two roundabouts would be open with the first section.
Okay.
And theirs isn't very complicated because it's in the middle of the woods, so there's no traffic control or anything like that.
Do you foresee any further delays on this project?
I can say that what they said to us was that they were going to include in the contract that these are hard dates. Isn't that what they said to us on the phone?
That's right, and they were going to, I think, look at increasing the liquidated damages portion on this to make this be the last one.
Wow.
So
I will say
Is
that
the issue that the general contractor underbid this thing and it's just dragging out and he's kind of just
Well, they're going to claim
sending
it's
people as he
related
gets
to
them
the
available?
roundabouts. But I don't necessarily see that being I disagree with that. But then again, we're not in charge of this contract, so.
Right.
yeah, it's a GDOT managed contract is the way that.
I will say that I know we're increasing the cost at Blue Jay for that roundabout, but to have them pick up the tab for the roundabout at Goshen is pretty
Yeah,
huge.
it's huge.
That's $8 million right there. So that's appreciated. Appreciate that. That's huge.
It's an offer and compromise for a year delay. Very good. Thank you, Jonathan.
Staff is recommending alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
All in favor? None opposed, the motion carries. All right. Item number 16 is an appointment. Consideration to approve appointing Karen Thomas as the 4th District Representative on the Department of Family and Children Services Board. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Thomas is being appointed by Commissioner Helmley for the vacated seat that has been vacant since the passing of Ms. Margie Sullivan. Her term, if appointed, will expire in June of 2030. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to appoint Karen Thomas as our 4th District Representative to DFACS Board.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed, motion carries. Item number 17, consideration to approve appointing Pauline Shaw to the Board of Health as Customer Advocate Representative.
Yes, sir. If you all recall, we discussed this at the last meeting. Ms. Shaw's application was received. I believe Commissioner Kiefer may have spoken with her, and you all are familiar with Ms. Shaw. She would be a great appointment for this seat. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item 12, reports from Commissioners and Administrative Staff. Tim?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I do have a neat, very quick executive session. But just to give you an update on 2 of our buildings, we got our CO today from the city of Springfield to move into. So we anticipate that we will, I'll move up there tomorrow, and we've got Stephanie's furniture being moved up there in 2 weeks. So, no, but it's looking great, and I think we're anxious, and I think the Chamber's actually reached out to try and have
Ribbon cutting or something?
some ribbon cutting for this and for the new Emergency Operations Center at the gymnasium. And I'm just waiting for all the video equipment to go in there, and then we'll do an official tour. But I can just tell you, it's state of the art. It's absolutely beautiful. And that is all that I got.
That'd be some big scissors. We're gonna cut them both at the same time, man. It's a long way away. All right. Mr. Floyd, anything?
Yeah, Steve, I think you've heard of this. I've talked to Stephanie today. I've had some complaints over off of the George Road folks that the pulp mill, whatever's over there, the wood yard on Highway 80 is now operating at night, and the debarker is causing a lot of noise and waking them up over there.
Okay, we did have Davon go out and talk to International Paper or Georgia Pacific.
I think it's,
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
yeah. Anyway, they went out there and talked to them. They said they weren't working at night, so we're gonna go out there and listen for them at night. Actually, the morning, early morning.
Right.
They said 2 a.m.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
That's all we can do.
We'll have to pull a little something, and we'll go over there and listen for it.
All right.
Yep, we'll check it out.
Yeah, thanks.
And then as far as, you had a couple on Community Drive too?
Go on Lakeside.
Yep,
Yeah, but you can just email me those.
Okay,
Those people
okay.
are pretty calm.
All right.
I did get a call, I want to say this, I did get a call that, this isn't you, but just the paving on Blue Jay Road. They said it's so slick, they love it. They said you could roller skate on it. So they're real happy with the pavement on Blue Jay.
We could make it rougher if they.
No, he's very happy, this individual is very happy.
Well, good,
I
because
don't get
somebody
many
earlier
compliments.
this week was complaining about it
So-
on Facebook, so, good.
It'd been bumpy, it'd been better than it was.
Anyway, good call.
Great. Mr. Burdette?
Just gonna follow up on the conversation we had on Blandford and the design of Blue Jay there with their concerns with the ride-only out and.
Yeah, so Jonathan is currently updating the concept plan, and the issue is, because we're making that section a 4-lane road, divided median, and, just, even though it's a slower speed, the people come around that turn, we did not want to do full access turns coming out of there for danger reasons. And so, and people can just go to the roundabout at Blue Jay and McCall, but the roundabout that y'all just approved on Blue Jay and Effingham Parkway, it's a good distance away. So we're gonna try and do a work in an R-cut there.
Okay.
So about halfway in between, so folks can turn around, and for the folks in the Blandford Commons, is that the name of the neighborhood?
Crossing.
Blandford Crossing, yeah. Blandford Crossing neighborhood will be able to, won't have to go all the way to the roundabout to get into their neighborhood.
That'd be great. If you all will send that to me, and I'll get it in some hands and see if they still want to meet afterwards. It might solve some of the concerns they had. That's all I have for today.
Mr. Loach?
Tim, this may be a conversation we have offline later on, but I've had a family friend of ours reach out to me, and she was asking about, she wanted to purchase a nice concrete bench and put out at Clarence Morgan. She recently, or I say recently, but she's lost her husband and wanted to put a plaque on the nice concrete bench. I've never had anybody ask me something specifically like that, so I don't know if we have a process for that or how do we entertain that, but I just wanted to bring that up. And
well, we can take donations, and we'd look at that as a donation. It's, I mean, it's similar to how the gentleman donated all that money for McCall Park, that we could accommodate that on the walking trail.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
Mr. Hellman?
Basically, a couple of things that came out tonight, and then one thing, again, I would like to see, I guess, with the issue of the frustration with the Learning Tree lady, that maybe we could put some kind of schedule in for some of these developments, Steve, to have some of your people periodically go by and not necessarily just count on those that are living in the area.
So by the end of the week, we're gonna have a rotation schedule
Yeah.
for subdivisions as well as apartment complexes. I think it's a great idea, and I'm sorry, we just.
Well, I'm not necessarily finding, I think sometimes
Yep.
things come out at these meetings, but you can understand, and like she said, I didn't know we could call and complain, but most
Well,
people do know they can, but
she
in
has
any
before.
case,
But that's okay, we'll implement a schedule, we'll keep these sites covered. I got the going on in the greens on 21, and down at Blue Jay will be soon, so we'll just get that done.
thank you.
Sure.
And then the prescriptive easements, it just seems like that keeps coming back up with me, and so with Mr. Bill, and I know it's frustrating, and we've got some land that's gonna probably have an issue like that one day, but I think we need to, I think we're kicking the can down the road a little bit with that. I think we're gonna have to try to start dealing with some of these things to make it, because that's just really why I voted no. I mean, I know what they were trying to do, but to me, we don't know who owns that road. And sooner or later, somebody's gonna have to figure out who owns that road. So
Is that
I
like
guess
a
that's just
civil
something
thing that we can't do that, right? I mean,
It's a civil thing unless it's a prescriptive easement for a county, that's used as a county road.
right.
Yeah.
So even if
and-
we identified them, there was nothing that we could do as a commission here to.
I guess so. I guess that's the
Force it.
difference. That was private property, I guess,
Yeah,
versus.
so the ordinance says we can do a private road, as long as it doesn't, it's not a county road. So, but we don't research the prescriptive part of it.
No, we don't get involved in granting
Yeah.
any roads. It's private property rights. So all we're doing, and what you're touching on is probably something we need to discuss, is what is the width of a road we're going to require? Because that's all you're doing is determining the width of the private road. You're not giving anybody any rights other than saying, well, our ordinance says you need 60 feet. And if you don't have it like the one tonight, they're going to ask for a less amount. So, normally when we have those situations that come up, we wouldn't have had another landowner here. So, you wouldn't even have thought about, why isn't this worked out? Why haven't they agreed to give? It's just, the plat, and then they're going to agree. Because what's the ultimate result is they're going to have a closing, and the closing attorney is going to see a plat. If they just did this plat and never granted an easement, the closing attorney is going to say, you don't have any legal access to your property. So the plat itself doesn't give them any legal access. All they're doing tonight was asking, hey, you say 60, I can't get that. So can we do 15? And a lot of times the analysis is going to be, all right, now what's going to go there?
Which is what concerns me.
Right, but that's the thing. This was one parcel. So if it comes back and he tries to subdivide into 3, that's when you've got the ability, or staff, well, wait a minute, that wasn't, you had 15 because it was one parcel for like one individual. So there's ways to deal with it.
I don't want to keep opening up this can of worms, but when it does come to private roads, we do have a requirement for the surface in our ordinance, which is 18 feet. But it's a 60-foot easement, which again, you guys were talking about correctly. But anyway, the road.
Technically, it's not wide enough.
18
Yeah, but it would be a new private road,
Yeah.
right? So if you're gonna subdivide a property, put a new private road in there, we do have a requirement.
When that requirement's for, is it pavement? That's not the width. I mean, because it could be a dirt road. I mean,
The
Yeah.
driving surface.
yeah, correct.
That's
What
right.
is the shoulders and all that total, like
There is
The driving surface has to be 18 feet.
foot?
That's all,
So
and
that should
then.
be the bare
That's all it
minimum
is.
is 18 foot.
That's right, and then a 60-foot easement is what we require per ordinance.
Gotcha.
And then the other is, I'm gonna have a town hall May 12th, at, Ebenezer Middle School, 6:30. So,
Good luck.
y'all wanna come and watch the dog and shout pony show, come ahead and I'll see what, get a bath of fire or whatever, but, in any case, wanted to, there's a lot of concerns that's come out of, Fourth District, mainly about roads and flooding, of course. So we're gonna try to cover some of those things in that town hall.
What date?
May 12th,
May 12th.
6:30,
Thought I met Monday.
Ebenezer Middle. So looking forward to
If you send a-
speaking with everybody.
Send a reminder and I'll get some publicity for it out there for
Yeah.
you too.
So that's
I'll
it.
put it on
Otherwise,
the calendar.
appreciate all the help I get bothering everybody up here.
Thank you.
You said it's middle school or the elementary?
Middle. It worked real good when Steve held the Ebenezer overlay. They just opened those lunchroom doors to the parking lot.
Yeah.
And it just was nice to just come in and out right there.
Very good.
Yeah, plenty of parking.
Only thing I have is following up on the GDOT quest to close that turning lane to right, left-hand end from the opposing
Effingham
lane
Park of
at
Commerce.
Effingham Park of Commerce.
I think we put the request in, and then we've got about 6 requests in with them. And so we've got to, and so I've requested that Jonathan set up a meeting with Troy Pittman, just so we can go over all of these, because it's that, where we are in the traffic light on Sand Hill and 80. Also, a right turn lane, potential, or at least having them look at Chimney Road and 21, and the peak hour traffic light at the entrance of the Career Academy.
There's another dangerous one.
Yeah. Did that include didn't Rinkin have a request, or was that coming from Rinkin for the?
Riggins' request was
For the fire
for
station
a
15?
fire light at the, whatever that street where the library is.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so we're just in a hurry up and wait process right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like the military.
Yes, come on up.
I do want to say I appreciate staff's quick responses, Jonathan, everybody. Y'all have been a big help in reaching out to constituents and getting the answers quickly. Appreciate that.
So, you've had this discussion, and there are a lot of situations coming before us for non-conforming lots. I know that Commissioner Deloach has had a couple too. And we've had this discussion with the county attorney, Chelsea and I, about non-conforming lots. Currently, the ordinance reads that if there's a structure on a non-conforming lot, so let's say it's a 4-acre AR1, it's an acre less than what it's supposed to be. If they want to put another structure on there like other folks can do an AR1, they can't, unless they rezone. And the approaches we had, if they rezone to an AR2, they can split it, they can put another piece on there, they can put more. If you're a non-conforming AR1 and AR2, you cannot put an accessory structure on there if you don't have one. And you cannot expand the current house that you're in if it's all you got on there. These are the and if it's a vacant lot, it really causes some problems. There are properties in the county that are both non-conforming AR1s and non-conforming AR1s, and then there's property in here that are non-conforming nothings. They don't conform to anything. So those are even, I know, those are even more difficult, okay? And so we talked a little bit about, there's 5,440 of them, okay, out of 32,000 lots, something like that, I think we have. So it's a sixth.
What's the smallest AR one we have?
.23 something.
It's
And
just
it's-
old stuff is all it
It's,
is. It's
it
just
was
old-
the
just
original
like-
1988 zone, that's right. But now because they didn't come out of the non-conforming status in the first 3 years, they're stuck with what they are. They can't do R1, and they can't do R5 because they don't have water and sewer. And technically, they really can't get a septic tank, but that's not for me to decide, but that's what DPH does. So we're running into more and more of these all of a sudden that we've not run into before, and they do cause some pain.
And they wouldn't even come up unless they were gonna do something with the property.
Well, that's
They'd
what
just
came
sit there.
up to me. I had a gentleman call me, owns property on Roebling Road, it's AR1, and it's .75 acre.
Yeah, he can't even be an AR2.
Yeah. There was one piece, there's another piece that's a vacant lot, it's right directly across from the track, pretty much. Across from the tiny house property that came before us not too long
Yeah, I
ago.
remember that.
Anyway, I think it's like maybe 1.5, 1.25 acres, something
Yep.
like that. And he's wanting to divide the property and build, two houses on it. Which we don't have anything for non-conforming, we just have the AR1, which AR1 allows you to do whatever AR1 allows you to do. So how do we find a middle ground and offer a compromise to not restrict usage, but get them conforming to something?
They don't have, in that area, right where he's talking about, does he have, water or sewer? Cause you gotta have an acre to put a septic tank down.
He's got sewer and
Yeah.
water access, yeah.
So
I mean,
it's-
he could go to R1, in that section.
There is some R1 over there, yeah.
Yeah,
But he still has to rezone, yeah.
He'd still have to rezone it, yeah.
So we're looking at how
AR2?
to address this in a majority fashion.
That's less than 2.
What's the minimum AR2?
The minimum is 1 acre,
1 acre.
and the minimum R1 is a half an acre if you're on either public water or public sewer. Now, DPH requires, if you're in AR1, AR2, or anything, you gotta have at least an acre of suitable soils, not including any easements, to be able to put a septic tank on there.
Yeah.
So if they have a 1 acre and they've got a 60-foot easement through the middle of the property, that doesn't qualify. And if they don't have suitable soils, that doesn't qualify either.
So they have nothing, basically.
So we're not trying to, cause any problems, but this is what the ordinance says. We're just trying to figure out how to bring a solution to some of it.
Yeah, because what it's causing, he's, probably the first of many that's gonna come before us, and we have to do some kind of variance on every friggin' hearing we have moving forward, with that type of property that's non-conforming to figure out. And if we can find a happy medium somewhere, that'd be great.
But even that, we wouldn't be able to do anything with the septic tank issue.
Yeah, even if we do our part, they may not do their part.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
outside of our.
I don't know that there's anything we can write, though. I mean, some of these are so odd, they're just about gonna have to come up here, and we're gonna have to make a decision, I think.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
All
would say
upon Nora.
I didn't know if
What?
we could go with an AR3, for example, for anything that's over an acre, but under the AR2 standard, I guess, and kind of dump them into
It's
those
disgusting.
minus the smaller ones, so.
So it may be a May workshop, we might have something, or it may be come out of the steering committee or something.
And I think we need to bring DPH in too,
Yes.
as well, into the meeting to discuss, what can we do? Because ultimately, we're just trying to make it as advantageous for the property owner as we can to not restrict them in any way.
If you could allow.
It's not their problem,
No.
or their fault, so it's their
Allow-
problem ultimately.
Allow like an AR3 to share a septic tank, 2 of them. If they didn't have enough property. Can't do it?
No, I don't know, that's a good question.
Trey's shaking his head. So, yeah. But that's all I have.
I think you're opening up a can of worms when you start sharing, septic tanks too, that's what I'm saying.
Well, you just take turns flushing the toilet and taking
Yeah.
baths at the same time, that's all. Beth, it builds
Um,
cooperation between neighbors.
Well, before he calls that, Mr. Chairman, before you go into executive session, if I can run a couple things by you as well, I need an answer from you guys. You received an invitation from Atlantic Waste for an event next week during the ACCG conference. Today is the deadline for you to respond to that event.
What day was that?
That date is April 25th, which is that Friday, at 6 o'clock.
There was nothing conflicting with that? Was there like two
No,
things
that
on
was
one?
intentional. There was nothing conflicting with it.
Not going?
You know, I can't.
Nope, nope.
I
Nope.
declined.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And then, of course, the conference is next week. And you'll get your materials by end of week. We received that information today, so I'll send you your materials by the
Remember, I
end of
can
the
only
week.
do one.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Anything else?
Executive session.
I'll make a motion to go in executive session.
Second?
Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss
$8.
personnel, property, or pending litigation.
$2, yeah, but
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
It just let me in using the old password. I can't
I've
help
already
it.
talked with them about it, but I'll
I don't
bring it
know.
up.
Maybe it's me.
Hey, man, what's up?